A little over 20 minutes passed on their trip. Though still uneasy about being so high up, Galivinth had grown accustomed to the feeling. Playing some music had definitely helped settle his nerves a bit. So, this wee thing you mentioned earlier, were you implying something? Like, we're somehow different from other people around us? Galvin asks, glancing over at his father with a look of skeptical curiosity. Yes, I was deliberately outlining us, our kind, from humans. Gaelilith nonchalantly answers. Come again. We're among lesser beings. Gaelilith elaborates in the simplest way he can. Wow, Dad, what exactly is that supposed to mean? You're a genetically superior life form. That's what I mean. You're not human, Galivinth. At least, not entirely. I'm not sure I follow 100%, but it doesn't sound too promising thus far. What do you mean I'm not human? What about you and I makes us inherently better than the average person? I'm not entirely sure what you're not comprehending. We're not humans. By standard definition, we're aliens here. Gaelilith thinks on it for a moment, looks to Galivinth briefly, then faces forward again. Well, I suppose not you exactly. You're native to Earth, but you're not the same as the average Earthling. You're telling me I'm of a different species. Yes. And my genetic makeup is superior to humans. Yes. Are you racist? Galivinth asks after a brief hesitation. By the literal definition? Yes. Gaelilith answers simply. Wow. I'm both fascinated and unconformable right now. I think there's a misunderstanding, honestly. You've been conditioned to hold a stigma to the word. If you're indirectly asking if I hate humans, then my answer is no. Okay. So what exactly makes us non-human? Have you not noticed any distinct differences between you and the others around you? Kind of. Your eyes. Your blood. Maybe even your level of strength? No normal human can share those traits with you. You'll even outlive them. I just thought I was different. You are. You're a Crinonine. What is that? Hang on, we're arriving at the town. I'll tell you more in a bit. The flying automobile begins to slow and descend at an angle. Finally observing his surroundings, it's only then that Galivinth notices the soft drizzle of snow around them. Though, before his brain could even think to question the unusual weather, a breathtaking sight comes into view. The only way he could really describe it was as a grand onyx kingdom. It was something torn out of a medieval tale. A navy blue brick road leading up to a massive castle city built of stone, steel, and wood holding shades varying from dark blue to royal blue. Towers-like structures as far as the eye can see. Sophisticated in design, even if outdated in appearance, and expanding farther than he could imagine. The wheels soon touch down with unexpected care and without hindering momentum. The teen stares in awe the entire time, speechless as they drive up to the guarded giant gateway up ahead. No wooden door or drawbridge, but some kind of blue transparent material. Looks to either be really thin glass, or silk. At either side stands two figures in steel blue knight armor, light in design and integrated with tech. No helmets, but they were armed with lances. Soon, they ease into a stop in front of the gateway. The two guards approach just as Gaelilith begins rolling down the driver and passenger side windows, letting a chilling breeze in. What have we here? The male of the two guards asks, though merely rhetorically. His complexion is dark, like chocolate. Hair trimmed short and slicked back with just a thick spit curl hanging over his right brow. A small holographic display projects before his eyes as he studies the two inside, starting with the father. Gaelilith, Aeroengineering Director of the Science Committee. Welcome back, by the way. And he trails off, directing his gaze toward the teen inside. Assessments were finished within seconds. And a halfling, the male guard finishes. Would you look at that? A woman's voice speaks up from the opposite side. One Galivinth turns his head toward. There stands a woman of a pale complexion and long silk-like hair, dark as the night. Bending down and looking him directly in the eyes. Apparently not too versed in the concept of personal space, she reaches to cradle his jaw within the palm of her gloved hand, instilling a minor upward tilt as a small grin forms upon her lips. He certainly is one, Mavrain. His eyes are like the night sky moon. Empty beautiful circles. A twin set. He's handsomely cute, too, she comments. I'm sure he is, Lilith. Her peer, Mavrain, responds rather dryly. All the while, Galivinth was nervously enduring. Silently. not too sure how to respond or react. Yes, indeed. Ahem. She clears her throat, releasing the boy's face and places her hand upon the door instead. I'm sure you're aware that he may not take up residence here, yes. She reminds Galilith. You may do whatever you please outside these walls, but here, intentionally defiling the Cryononian gene during our crucial time will not be tolerated. The male adds, meeting Gale's eyes directly with a cold stare. I'm aware. He's not staying, only visiting for the day, Galilith informs. Ah, I see. No harm in that. In that case, Lalith, if you'd be so kind as to properly brand our guest. Of course. I wouldn't mind at all. The guardswoman reaches for Galivintha's right bicep, using both hands to grip around it before uttering a phrase. Manifest Protocol Red 0-0. And with that, a shine of pale blue light comes forth and forms a red armband bearing a bland white circle on it. She releases him and nods at her handiwork. All set. Wonderful. You may proceed, sir. The two guards step away to return to their post. Mavrain takes a moment to swipe his palm left along the air, motioning at the gate to momentarily remove the blue construct. Galilith gently presses his foot down on the gas and heads within those giant walls. I'm so confused. What kind of place is this, again? Galivinth asks. A nation of Cryononians. We haven't been here for very long, but we've managed to establish order and a way of life here. His father answers. Is there something wrong? They were talking as if I was a nuisance of some kind. No. It's just that our population is rather low. Many of us died after crash landing, and we've just only begun to accumulate beyond 300 after 20 years. The council wants to keep us pure-blooded for a little while longer. Earthlings aren't permitted inside, but small compromises can be made for half-Cryononians. Like you? I see. Is that what this armband is for? The teen asks as he looks toward his right arm. Yes. A visitor's pass. Galilith informs. How can you tell who's pure-blooded or half, though? You haven't noticed? I suppose this is a lot to take in for you. The human half of you may be hindering your mental capacity. Those words from his father bring forth a wary look upon his face. A sense of ridicule creeping in. You can tell by looking at their eyes or scanning them with a DNA decoder. See, every full-blooded Cryononian has a certain eye type. Think of it as a 3-layer bullseye, a ring around a smaller ring, both monochrome, and a black dot in the center of the smaller ring. There's no varying colors among us. Never has been. However, half-bloods like you have none of those, as stated in biological research reports. Haven't actually seen it until you. They're monochrome, so it's a telltale sign that you're a descendant of our nation. Galilith explains. Oh, is that all there is? No other difference. There is, actually. To keep it simple, you're defective. Defective. Galivinth repeats. Yes. But I plan on fixing you, or at least patch up the flaws that ail you to the best of my capabilities. After that answer from his father, Galvin couldn't bring himself to prod for a second more. Every response was surreal and disheartening. He knows he's receiving full-on honesty, but it's not quite so easy to swallow so abruptly. His father drives mindfully on the brick road, passing by citizens walking about and going on about their day normally. In snowy weather, rarely do other vehicles come into view. On top of that, the residents are abnormally tall and dressed fashionably posh. No casual wear. Some walking on ground, some being carried by levitating platforms to their desired location, or riding in carriages pulled by pairs of horses. It was as several time eras blended into one, creating something so interestingly bizarre. Besides those details, they resembled everyday folk around his own neighborhood. Like humans. The car eventually drives up to a large premise, one that gives the impression of a university. A large wide building of navy blue stone and pretentious design sits in the very far back. In the center lies an enormous near-transparent blue dome sitting on an open field, and from a distance, it looks as if there's people inside of it. Even with how much space the dome took up, which was a football field and a half all around, it didn't even take up half of the establishment's thinly snow-covered grounds. We're here. Galilith informs upon parking near the sidewalk. The two exit the vehicle and head toward the large facility. Where are we? The teen asks. A research facility for societal advancement. It's where members of the science and magic committees usually reside when they aren't consulting with the king in meetings. Some of us, Also mentor the future generations of potential members here, too. This is also where my lab is. King? You live under a king. Yes. The title is reserved for descendants of the royal bloodline. It's a bit similar to the US presidential position of power, but instead of checks and balances, the king's decree is incontestable. He may choose to listen to advisors on the councils, but in the end, his word is law. Isn't that unsettling? Galivinth asks with an arching brow. No. We do our best to do what's best for everyone, no matter where their political leanings may be. Oh, I see. What about you? Do you find it unsettling when your government makes decisions on your behalf, as well as the masses as a whole? Gaelilith counters. I never really thought about it. I don't know, things have seemed fine so far, but I think I'd be against a noticeable and dramatic change. Galivinth replies. His attention shifts toward the sphere, and from there, he's swept up by what he sees. He pauses to observe those within the impressively towering and wide half-sphere. Two opposing sides facing in about. Elemental projectiles, some the size of cars, flying from both directions. Fireballs, waves of water, streams of electricity, ice, and even violent gushes of wind. Strangely, he could hear no sound from it. He surmised the dome had some sort of noise cancellation ability. Not that it mattered to him. Galivinth. Yeah. Oh, the sport caught your eye. Sport? How are they even doing that? Magic. Gaelilith answers. You're serious? Galivinth questions in doubt. Yes, I am. This is a sport from our home world. I don't particularly care much for it, but the mage souls are usually heavily invested within it. Mage souls? Like, people born with magic or something? Not quite. If that was the case, we'd all be considered one. They're the ones of us who are blessed with the goddess favor, allowing them to achieve higher tiers of magic. What you're seeing now is a display of tier 2 and 3 spells. If you think that's something to behold, then just wait until you see tier 6, the highest of them all. Gaelilith explains. Huh. So, how do you even win in this sport? It's a game of conquering. Right now, there's two opposing sides with their own 3 gate towers and a single castle. Teammates are identified by their designated colored jackets, which also have protective properties to severely reduce the chances of injuries. The goal is for a team of 5 to attack and defend. Destroying a tower could remove a force field, if the right or left tower are the targets. Destroying the middle will only result in the left and right forming a wide force field that still protects the castle entree point. I see. So, is invading the other team's castle the only way to win? Galivinth asks. No. There's also a 12-minute timer in place. If neither team succeeds in invading, then feats will be considered to judge a winner. Attacks landed on enemy players, teamwork, display, strategy, tower damage, and some others. It's also a best of 2 out of 3 rounds. Gaelilith finishes explaining. The subject of the matter, the sport, seems as if it were concluding. One of the 10 inside breaks off from the rest to approach where the father and son were spectating from. A male around 6 feet 0 inches in height, a complexion of warm beige, an athletically lean build, hair trimmed into a neat and styled low cut, one bearing flame-like designs at the sides that are outlined by a careful and artistic coloration of a thin usage of crimson red dye. On his lips rests a small grin. His features are strong and youthful, while the entirety of his being radiates pride and unimaginable self-assurance. The two watch as the individual seems to literally draw a rectangle drawing upon the glass surface with a single finger until he is satisfied with it. Galivinth blinks with a look of shock as the male then pushes it open like an actual door and steps out to greet them. Hey, you're back already, huh? Did you find him? The adolescent asks, eyes settled upon Gaelilith for now. Yes, I did. He's standing right in front of you, Naeth. He responds, then places a hand onto his son's shoulder. Galivinth, this is, by Earth customs, whom you'd be able to consider a cousin of yours. A relative. Wait. This is him? Your son? But he looks just as old as me. Naeth comments, studying the other teen with a look of confusion. Have you been to this planet before? No, not at all. It's the human half of his biological makeup. It's causing him to age rapidly, just like the average human. I brought him here to help him with that. Oh, you don't say. That's pretty scary to think about for sure. I thought he looked a bit interesting. Naeth replies before presenting another warm grin. His eyes calmly peering into the pupilless pools of Galivinth's eyes. The latter frowns somewhat, looking away to avoid the awkward eye contact. The reaction earns a soft chuckle from the other. Youth. You've got honest eyes. So different and surreal, too. I'm a little jealous, honestly. Still, you look awfully simple. No real charisma at all. Nothing quite outstanding compared to me. Naeth outwardly examines his relative with a tone of fascination. Galivinth, however, couldn't help but to look back to him with an unamused look. I like you already. I can see potential in you, despite your fragile presence. Here on Earth the concept of family ties holds a deep emotional value, yes? How about we keep in touch? As family. Surely you feel lonely being out there, and I wouldn't mind having an excuse to visit humankind's society. Naeth adds, casual and chipper in speech. Sure. I guess. Family is family. Galivinth reluctantly agrees. Great. What's your personal contact number? One-sidedly, Galvin provides his number. During, Naeth lifts left arm and rolls up his sleeve to reveal a watch-like device on his wrist. When every digit is given, the device makes an affirming sound. Contact method recorded and saved. A robotic and female-like voice announces, drawing a baffled look from Galivinth. I'm glad you two are getting along, but I'm anxious to get things done. Every second counts, I feel. Come along, son. Galilith chimes in. Nearly immediately after, a few of the others inside the dome call out for Naeth. He too takes his leave with a farewell. Got another round or two to do. I'll be seeing you, cousin. And with that, they go their separate ways. The dorm shutting and sealing up as if no cut was made prior. The pair resume their travel into the building. From within, the son finds himself almost breathless, but certainly in awe. The inside was much larger than he thought it'd be. It was also a mixture of modern and futuristic, belying the dated exterior he saw outside. It was all so unreal and unpredictable. Heading up a flight of stairs made of solid energy wasn't something he was expecting to see coming to this side of the world. This is it, Galilith informs, pushing into the doorway of his lab. On the other side stands a man at a work table, tampering with some sort of device. He speaks without turning around, far too invested in his project to entertain the idea. Meanwhile, Galilith takes a moment to rid himself of his trench coat and hang it up on a nearby rack. Welcome back, Galilith. How was your trip to the human city? The man asks while practically shouting. Static could be heard from his general direction as he keeps at his adjustments. It was fine. All there's left to do is administrate the serum. So soon? Is it not still untested? The man inquires as he promptly stops what he's doing to face the two, lifting his protective goggles, as well. He was a man of ivory skin, his hair short and a pure raven black color, as well as neatly brushed through. He has a trimmed beard and a styled goatee upon his strong features. He looked to be around the same age as Galilith, mid-30s in human years. His attire is also formal, a white dress shirt under a black vest, both lying underneath a protective lab apron. His sleeves were rolled up and a pair of thick protective gloves dressing his hands. Loose slacks and simple boots made up the bottom half of his outfit, both also the color of black. It'll work, Tinithi. I have faith in it. I don't know. I wish I could believe that, but it seems more like to me that you're desperate. I am, but I know what I'm doing. Well, you do have a credible reputation. I just hope it's not leading you astray. It'll work. Galivinth, take a seat. Over there in that chair. Galilith instructs. His son obliges whilst he heads toward a small fridge filled with tubes. He opens and pulls out a small steel briefcase before gently kicking the door shut again. As Galilith preps the injection at a nearby tool utensil table, Galivinth watches with anxiety in his chest and worry on his face, unsure what to make of what was going on. His father assembles a syringe and slips a small tube containing some sort of black liquid with bits of tiny glowing dots into the rear end of it. Naturally, the teen expresses curiosity. What exactly is that stuff? A compound given electromagnetic properties to boost its effects. In theory, it should amplify the cryonine half of your DNA and somewhat suppress your human half. Gale answers, now taking hold of the teen's right forearm and proceeding to push up the sleeve of his son's hoodie. Quick and smooth in motion, he injects and pumps the substance into his son's bloodstream. Besides a grimace, there doesn't look to be any immediate side effects. Still, Galilith makes sure there's no complications. Let me know if you feel any discomfort. Kind of feel a chill spreading a bit. Besides that, nothing but the sting from the needle. I see. That's good. Gaelilith moves to retrieve bandages and such from a cabinet nearby. During this entire time, Timothy stood watching keenly. Finally, he asks the question on his mind. He shares a resemblance to you, especially in the expressions he makes. Is he your son? Yes, he is indeed my son. We haven't been here for too long. I can only assume he's a product of your outings into the human world. He is, Timothy. An outcome I hadn't actually intended, but one I want to make right. Got a bit careless, huh? I suppose it's easy to get swept up in moments when you're in a new fascinating environment. Even so, I wouldn't have thought a half-cryonine would age just as fast as a human. Neither did I. But it's fixed now. It should be. Gaelilith responds, now using a small cloth to brush a dab of alcohol over his son's arm, and a band-aid follows soon after. He notices the teen averting his eyes the whole time. Are you all right? I'm fine, I think. I'm just trying to digest this situation. I feel like I shouldn't be here. Galivinth answers. Technically no, you shouldn't. But I'm exploiting my position in the Science Council to override that to a certain degree. You're entitled to be here so long as I'm within the city. Sure. Whatever you say. Are you still uncertain about something? No, everything is fine. Are we done here? I think I'm ready to go back home now. I see. Just one more stop, then I'll take you back home. And with that, Gaelilith puts away his utilities. The two bid farewell to Timothy and silently make their way back out into the hallway. Gaelilith guides his son into a nearby library, one where students typically make use of. Today, no one was present. Gaelilith begins to sort through specific columns of bookshelves, and stacks a small collection of books into Galvin's hands. I want you to read up on the history of cryonines, as well as our native tongue, laws, family households, and physiology of our species. Gaelilith tells him. What about magic? Is there a book for that, too? Galivinth asks. Magic? You're truly interested in such a thing? Yeah, I am. But is there, like, a book just filled with spells? I don't really need to know the history of it. At least, not as of now. Very well. I'll oblige your request. Gale sighs. Going to retrieve the ideal book and returning with it shortly after. It wasn't as thick as the others, but it looked to have around 100 or so pages worth of magic spells. It gently joins the top of the pile in the teen's possession. As promised, Galvin was taken back home for the evening. He makes his way inside the apartment building, after a bit of struggle to retrieve his key from his pocket, and open the front door of his home. He enters while announcing his presence. I'm home. Oh, welcome back. His grandmother responds as he heads into his bedroom. He places the stack of books onto his study desk and moves to practically toss himself onto his bed. His guardian arrives to stand within his doorway. How was it? The grandmother asks. I'm not too sure. It wasn't like anything I was expecting at all. Is that good or bad? Both. Was it hard getting along? No. He's just kind of weird. It'll take some getting used to, I think. Huh? I know that feeling all too well. Nothing particular to talk about at all? Anything positive? She asks, internally hoping the boy was able to bond with his father to some degree. Galivinth thinks on the question for a moment, nonchalantly, looking up at the ceiling as he does. Then he turns his head toward her optimistic smiling face. Well,